Hey guys, welcome to The Pulse, your destination for gaming news, updates, and new releases. My name is June, and today we've got some interesting news we think you should know. First, we'll cover the latest player base findings for Diablo 4. Then, we'll talk about some crossovers with Fallout. We'll also cover a new studio announcement, followed by Valve's new game getting leaked. After that, we'll cover xDefiant's preseason release and wrap up the news with an announcement from Arrowhead Studios. Stick with us after the news for this week's game releases. Let's get to it. Starting us off, we're going to talk about Diablo 4 and its big turnaround. About 2 weeks ago, we announced Diablo's patch notes and the release of Season 4. Now on May 14th, Blizzard released the new season and we were blown away. So let's talk about some of the changes. So one of the biggest changes that players are talking about right now is the new loot system. So loot in itself has changed, and I'm going to read straight from the patch notes. Starting with the first item, it's all items dropped in World Tier 3 will now be sacred. All items dropped in World Tier 4 will now be ancestral. Item rarity drop chances have been adjusted. After level 28, the majority, about 80% of gear drop that is not legendary will be rare. Additionally, chances to drop legendary items now scales more after reaching level 50. Though that may seem like that's not too much of a change, it's enough change for players to feel like the game is now fresh and unique, and when they do gather this loot, that it feels like it's an experience. So another change that has come that players have said that they have enjoyed is Hell Tides being in World Tiers 1 and 2. Prior to Season 4, the Hell Tide was only reserved for World Tier 3 and 4. So now that Hell Tides are in World Tier 1 and 2, this opens up another area to grind and more loot to gather. So what's this really lead to and what's the point? Ultimately, it comes down to player count and who's coming back to play Diablo. So let's put this stuff into some perspective here. The average monthly player count hit a peak of 6.8 million players when the game was released. By the end of August, Blizzard saw a loss of about 740,000 players. The average player count by October 2023 had once again dropped by 730,000 players. So since then until today, the active player count has stayed about 4 million monthly players. With 6 days left in the month, we're projecting that there's going to be a big increase in player count. Now those numbers were for monthly counts. If we were to talk about Steam's numbers for Diablo 4, in April 2024, the average player count was about 3,892. As of today, and for the last 30 days, it was around 8,084 active players. April's peak numbers, we were looking at 9,429 active players, and in the last 30 days, it's 28,835. Just in the last 30 days alone, that's a huge difference. So what's the lesson here? Well, let's take a page from Blizzard's book. Working on chief complaints of the game that your fans have been requesting for ages doesn't only make for a great gaming experience, but it also opens up the doors for success. Another good prime example is Cyberpunk 2077. It took what felt like ages for CD Projekt Red to fix and make changes to the game. But eventually the changes came. So just like Diablo, patience really did pay off. So here at GameWave, we've actually played almost every season, and by far this season has knocked it out of the park for us. The new changes do feel unique, and it feels more rewarding to play, and it breathes fresh life into the game. So if you're looking for a new game, or if you're one of those players that left and want to jump right back in, we highly recommend checking out Season 4, Loot Reborn. Alright, by now you guys probably know Fallout is having a moment in the entertainment industry. In my experience, Fallout was that game that you played a few years back, and when you asked your friends what they thought, it was a very exaggerated, "It was really good," or meh. Riding on the coattails of the popularity, there are two games that are hosting crossover events. The first being Fortnite, which is slated to drop today, and the other being Call of Duty, which looks like it's going to be at the start of Season 4. Alright, let's unpack Fortnite real quick. So in this crossover event, it looks like there's going to be power armor, maybe a couple of guns. There's no concrete details. We only have a video that was posted on Fortnite's X. So be sure to go check that out. Alright, so let's talk about Call of Duty. So it looks like there's going to be a Vault Dweller and Brotherhood of Steel as operator skins and multiple Fallout themed gun skins. And speaking of crossovers, so it looks like during Season 4, COD's going to have a couple of different types of crossovers happening. The first one being the Fallout, and then the next one being possibly the Gundam Wing crossover. Crossovers tend to be one of those things that kind of switch up the game, so I highly recommend that you check them out. And for the sake of engagement, what's your favorite crossover? Alright, next up we have Activision announcing a new studio. This new studio will be called Elsewhere Entertainment, headquartered in Warsaw, Poland, which will exclusively be focusing on creating a new narrative-based and genre-defining AAA franchise. In the initial press release from Activision, they describe Elsewhere as a premier and standalone studio dedicated to establishing an environment that inspires bold and diverse ideas. So one of the cool things about this studio opening is that the team will consist of storytellers from popular games such as The Witcher, Destiny, Far Cry, and The Last of Us. And a little side note here, there are open positions with Elsewhere. Check the description below for a link to their careers page. Good luck Elsewhere Entertainment, and we look forward to see what works you all create. In some crazy news, Valve's new work in progress, Deadlock, has been leaked online. So this news is pretty huge, only because Valve hasn't really had a notable release in some time. I think off the top of my head, the last thing we saw was Half-Life Alyx, which was a VR experience. Based on the leak, this IP looks like it's completely new. And what I mean by that is that you don't really see any references to Half-Life or anything else like that. There was some speculation that this new game was going to be based in the Half-Life universe, but after seeing the leak, it doesn't look like that's the case. So while scrolling down in the comments, the general consensus boils down to disappointment. I mean, like I said previously, it's been a long time since Valve has actually released a game, and a lot of people felt like this game is going to be one of those Smite knockoffs or something else like that. So this leads to a lot of people thinking that the developers have lost their direction. And this is the moment where I kind of have to remind you that this is a work in progress. Valve has not confirmed anything. So until we get hard facts, this is just all speculation. And on that note, have you seen the leak? What do you think? Are you down to play or not? Alright, moving along. The highly anticipated Ubisoft shooter xDefiant has been released on Tuesday. So a lot of players have a lot of positive things to say about xDefiant. Its similarities to the finals and Call of Duty make it a very popular game right now. Of course, it's a modern game, so there's going to be a bunch of negatives. There's actually only two. The first one being matchmaking. Some players were reporting that they could not join or find games. And the second being SBMM, or skill-based matchmaking. So let's start with SBMM. So briefly, if you don't know, SBMM is basically a system within a game that sets you up with people who are at the same skill level as you, and then you compete against them. So as your skill level rises, you continue to get paired with people at your new skill level. This in turn makes competitive matches even more competitive. So now that you understand what SBMM is, the chief complaint that a lot of people were having with the game is that in a welcome playlist, you're really just trying to learn the game and you're not really trying to be competitive, you're trying to be more casual more than anything. So this is kind of like one of those simple changes that Ubisoft could make, and that's actually what they did. They turned off SBMM and they allowed for a more casual experience in the welcome playlist. So what was once a negative, I guess, is a positive now, right? So the next one is matchmaking. Matchmaking was not working for a big chunk of the player base. A lot of reports were coming in that a lot of players couldn't join or find games, which is kind of a big deal if you're an online game. Though I think Ubisoft saw the urgency behind that and patched it pretty quickly. So as of today, matchmaking works. I want to throw a quick reminder out there that xDefiant is currently in preseason, and it will be in preseason for 6 weeks. The expected Season 1 release date will be on July 2nd. Alright, and wrapping up our news segment, we have Arrowhead announcing a new CEO. On May 22nd, Arrowhead has announced that CEO Johan Pilestead will be stepping down as Arrowhead's CEO and taking the role as CCO, or Chief Creative Officer. Johan has commented that this move better aligns with his vision for Arrowhead and the future of games that they will develop. And in the Helldivers 2 realm, Johan has also stated that the game is currently in a bad position, stating, "Our guns suck, armor's too weak, and the planets are too repetitive." he'll be honing in on and steering his team to make the experience a bit better. The new CEO, Shams Georgiani, is an industry vet with 12 years working for Paradox Interactive and Hooded Horse, says he will be focusing on the boring business stuff. And here is this week's new releases. Hey, if you've gotten this far, thanks for watching and sticking with us. As a new channel, your views are greatly appreciated. Please leave us some feedback in the comments. We'd like to hear what resonates with you and what doesn't. Again, my name is June, and this is The Pulse, your destination for gaming news, updates, and new releases. Have a good one.